Hello, I'm Brandon Silver, a construction, contentious and transactional lawyer, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving into a common area of confusion in construction law, abatement and set-off. These terms come up often in payment disputes, so it's important to understand what they mean and how they differ. So, as an introduction, in construction contracts, payment disputes are unfortunately quite common. Now, abatement and set-off, which we're going to talk about today, are two legal mechanisms that allow a party, usually the client, i.e. the employer, to reduce or withhold payment to the contractor. However, these mechanisms serve different purposes and follow different rules. So let's break down each one. We're going to start with abatement. Abatement is the right to reduce the amount payable under a contract due to defects or incomplete work. Essentially, if the contractor's work is substandard, the client can pay less. But, and this is the important point, only in proportion to the reduced value of the work. So essentially, the purpose of abatement is used to ensure that the employer doesn't overpay for work that doesn't meet the agreed standards. So let's look at an example. Say you have a contractor who's installed flooring that's not to specification. That has made that issue worth less than the agreed price. The employer can, as a result, pay a reduced amount than what is the agreed price, reflecting the actual value of the work done because of the issue that has arisen. That is how abatement works in practice. Now, the important point with abatement, which is unlike in set-off, is that abatement doesn't require a separate legal claim. It is an automatic right. However, as I have advised, and this is the really important point, any deductions, any abatement must be reasonable and proportionate to the defect or the incomplete nature of the work. So let's now talk about set-off. Set-off is a broader concept in comparison to abatement, and with set-off, it allows a party to offset a debt or claim owed to them against any payment due under the contract. This could include not just defective work, but also claims such as damages for delay or costs incurred due to breach of contract. The claim that you have is used as a contra charge and is used to set off any sums that may be due to them. As I mentioned, unlike with abatement, for set off it usually requires the client to raise a separate claim. So let's now look at an example and apply abatement and set off to that example. Let's imagine that you've got a contractor who has unfortunately completed work with some minor defects and has also delayed the project. Using the mechanism of abatement, the employer could reduce the payment to reflect the reduced value of the works due to the defects. On the other hand, using set-off, the client could withhold payment to offset the losses they have incurred due to the project delay. Now, in terms of the defects issue, obviously at the minute we've used abatement and the mechanism of that by reducing the value. However, let's say that with these defects, there was remedial works that were required and the contractor refused to remedy them, and therefore the employer has had to incur costs to employ others to remedy those defects. Rather than abating, what the employer can do is actually use set-off. It has a damages claim, being the additional cost that is incurred in employing others to remedy the defects, and that can be used as set-off. So with defects, there may be two different mechanisms that you could use, abatement or set-off. Now, the important point is that you must avoid double recovery. As I have mentioned, with the issue of the defects, there is possibly two options available, abatement or set-off. Now, you cannot do both. You cannot seek to abate i.e. reduce the value because of the defects, and then also bring a set-off claim for damages for the issue of the defective works being your additional cost to employ others. You cannot do both. That is double recovery, and the courts do not permit this. So you would need to make a decision as to which one you're going to do. Are you going to abate, or are you going to set off? Whichever one probably results in the better figure to you is the one that you should be adopting. So let's now talk about some practical tips for contractors and employers in respects of this. Number one, clear contract clauses. Both contractors and employers should ensure the contract clearly outlines when abatement or set-off can apply. Number two, and this is very important, keep proper documentation. Employers should keep detailed records of any defects or delays to support a claim for abatement or set off if necessary. Number three, seek legal advice. Since improper use of abatement or set off can lead to disputes, it's always wise to consult a construction lawyer like myself before making deductions. That will hopefully avoid disputes, or if there is a dispute, then we've got all of our ducks in a line and all the documents and stuff are ready to go for then proceeding with that dispute. So thank you for listening. That's obviously a quick look at the differences between abatement and set-off in construction law. Understanding these mechanisms can help both contractors and employers navigate payment disputes more effectively. If you found this helpful, please like, subscribe and share, and let me know if there are any other topics you would like to cover. If you write it in the comments, I will certainly see it and then detail that in my next vlog. Thank you for listening.